The Meadow Glen Retirement Center was considered one of the most reliable long-term care facilities in the Greater Toronto Area. Known for its friendly staff and quiet atmosphere, it was a haven for elderly residents and their families, until whispers of an unusual pattern began to surface. Over a span of several years, 8 residents of Meadow Glen died under strange but seemingly natural circumstances. All were elderly. All had underlying health conditions. And all passed away during night shifts when one particular nurse was on duty. In 2013, 88-year-old Ruth Fisher was admitted for post-stroke care. A former schoolteacher, Ruth had a clear mind despite her frail condition. One evening, she confided in her daughter. "The night nurse gave me something. It made me feel funny." Her daughter, alarmed, spoke with the staff, but the concern was dismissed. Ruth passed away 2 nights later in her sleep. The cause was labeled as cardiac failure. Her death might have gone unquestioned, if not for a new employee, Mark Hamilton, a young nurse who had recently joined Meadow Glen. Mark had no prior connection to the previous deaths, but he grew suspicious. He noticed that one of his colleagues, a quiet, middle-aged nurse named Elizabeth Wells, often insisted on personally administering nightly insulin shots and medications, even for patients not under insulin therapy. Mark documented each of his observations. Patients were more likely to become unresponsive during Elizabeth's shifts. Insulin pens were disappearing faster than expected. Certain sedatives had unexplained discrepancies in dosage logs. After reviewing charts, Mark submitted an anonymous complaint to management, who dismissed it due to lack of evidence. But he didn't stop there. Mark took his notes and suspicions to local law enforcement. At first, authorities were skeptical, but with help from a medical examiner, detectives began reviewing the post-mortem records of several deceased patients from Meadow Glen. Their findings were alarming. Multiple victims, including Ruth Fisher, had extremely low blood sugar levels at the time of death, consistent with insulin overdose, even though most were not diabetic. Detectives obtained a warrant to install hidden cameras and tamper-evident packaging on insulin pens at the facility. Within 2 weeks, footage confirmed their worst fears. In the early hours of March 19, 2014, the cameras caught Elizabeth Wells injecting a non-diabetic patient with insulin. The patient survived, but the evidence was conclusive. When confronted, Elizabeth appeared calm. She simply said, "They were suffering, I helped them rest." She was arrested on the spot. During her interrogation, Elizabeth confessed to administering lethal doses of insulin to 8 elderly patients over 7 years. Her victims ranged in age from 75 to 96. She saw herself as an angel of mercy, believing she was helping people die with dignity. None of the patients had requested euthanasia. None were in terminal stages of illness. Most deaths were described by family members as unexpected. Elizabeth said she often felt unseen and unimportant, and that the only time people paid attention to her was when someone died. The trial began in 2016 and lasted 4 months. Elizabeth Wells was charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Families of the victims sat in the courtroom, stunned as they listened to the details. Her defense attempted to argue diminished capacity, but a psychiatric evaluation determined she was fully aware of her actions. The jury deliberated for 2 days before returning a unanimous verdict: guilty on all counts.